Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gavel Strikes. We had another computer that had the volume on. We needed to crash course it down to nothing. Otherwise, you would have all heard the echo. I'm Brian Wiedman.
And I'm Xavier Chavez.
There's always something with us. We always have something going on.
Again,
always trying to rush around.
We'll get it right at one point.
We got it right last time, except I wasn't here. Maybe that's the reason.
I wasn't going to say anything.
So. You were. So we have a great episode for you guys today. Thank you very much for joining us. We also at the end, we have our giveaway.
Yes,
contestant winner.
The winner
and so giveaway. We will, he probably already knows. Everybody can do the math, but we're going to announce it and then send the book out and you'll get your book.
Yeah.
Whoever the contestant winner are, we do know. And we got some great items for you. X, do you have anything before you start, or do you just want to jump right in?
Again, we're going to, like I said, we're going to talk about a lot of comics and a lot of comic art, but particularly some foreign stuff. So,
oh, yeah, those are going to be some great ones.
Yeah.
I pulled them for a reason. It's kind of a lead into one of our auctions.
We're going to have in, I think, October, November.
Yep,
so.
Great. So, okay, without further ado, we'll start with Xavier's picks.
So first off, let's start with this Doctor Strange page from issue 29. An end page. Some people collect end pages, title splashes, interior splashes, covers, and stuff like that. I particularly, when I'm looking for a page, it's with a lot of action or an end page, because you get the whole conclusion of the story and then the title of the next issue coming up. This particular page has great images of Doctor Strange in a fight where they just destroyed with the Eye of Agamotto a villain. And again, just a great page with a lot of detail, a lot of action, and then the next issue, a gathering of fear. So,
or do they? You said they always concluded the story. Do they really?
Well,
or do they go on for a couple more?
It's the never-ending soap opera. That's what
soap opera. Yeah,
that's what comics are. So.
Which is why we like them.
And again, a lot of these pieces currently are under $500. These are all ending in the weekly. And
tonight.
Yeah, and there's not only this Bronze Age page, but there's several other Bronze Age pages, several other newer art, several covers and stuff like that. So there's a lot of strip art. I unfortunately didn't have a piece today because I've shown a lot of them. There's a lot of still Milton Caniff up there and other pieces. So,
Xavier, I've kind of said this, to you. Show the back of that. That's really cool.
Well, so sometimes this is a process where they had to replace. So this panel was not to the editor's standards, the art editor. So he asked them to change it. So sometimes instead of redrawing the whole page, they would just literally cut out this panel and put a new image, and what they would do is just pretty much tape it with masking tape back in the day. Now this can be removed, and we can put art tape with acid-free and stuff like that. But this is how they did it back in the day.
Most people don't get to see this stuff.
So, yeah.
That's kind of why I had them pointed out. Because when you're looking at it like this, you don't even really notice it. You wouldn't really see it.
And if it was kept in good conditions, again, you'll see how this is yellowed here, but it hasn't really yellowed around the actual image. So.
Right. So that's really neat. Yeah. What I was going to say is, Xavier and I talk a lot. So, he sits next to me. I was only a comic book collector until I met X. But he has really gotten me into loving the original art itself, because I never had access to this. I lived in the Midwest. I grew up in Chicago, as a lot of you know, and I never really had access to these items. And now that I do, working for Heritage,
wow.
Now that we see a lot, we have a little more access than with the internet than I had when I grew up. I love it actually more because it's one of a kind.
Right.
It's unique. It's something that I can put on my wall and not have to worry about it falling apart like a comic book, which I will show you later why you do not display your books in light. Okay, I have
And
a really
again,
good example.
art does fade, so you
It
have to be
does,
careful
but
about
India
that and stuff
ink
like that.
doesn't as
It
much.
doesn't as much, but we'll get into newer stuff like this piece in the background that you can see it's heavily marker, and
Right,
marker stays active for a long time. It bleeds into yellow,
right,
and it fades if it's in the sunlight. So
right. So you do need to be careful in certain regards, but if you have India ink, you don't have to worry about it as much.
as
You need to
much,
worry about the
yes,
board more than anything
yes,
else.
because the board will yellow and
Right.
stuff like that. So
But that's the reason I actually really like artwork more now. Now we argue all the time pencils versus inked. I know you like inks. You don't like pencil pieces.
well, again,
I
I
actually
have
don't mind pencil pieces as much. I do like the inks.
I,
I really wish they were inked, but what you gonna do?
as you can see on my desk, there are exceptions like that. I have sketches. I just brought in today to display on my desk the preliminary cover to the Daredevil #1 by Tim Sale, which is all pencils. But I'm a really big Tim Sale fan, so I have 2 ink washes pieces from the Daredevil Yellow, and I have that pencil piece. And it's just like it's an example of all his artwork from the pencil to the ink wash. And that's a piece that, even though I don't like pencils, is an exception to the rule because I just really enjoy his art, and I think it's to see how the whole process of his artwork and his mind works.
What is an ink wash? To give me? I'm not familiar with that term, or at least
So,
as familiar as you.
all this artwork is done with India ink, and you can have very heavy blacks with India ink. That's why they do it most of the time. But you can also then take it, add water and water it down, and it'll create different shades.
Okay.
And Tim Sale particularly was a master at that. Whereas when the last auction we had the detective cover with Catwoman and Batman that I brought on, and you could see Batman, but the ink wash on that was so light it was almost him coming through smoke. And
Gotcha.
he was a master at the different levels of grays, pretty much, because that's what ink wash
So because
does.
you added water to it, it's really called an ink wash.
It dilutes it a little bit. Again, there's watercolor, there's gouache and watercolor. Gouache is watercolor, it just has more of the pigment in the process, so it comes out as a heavier and brighter color compared to the watercolor that is a little bit more pastel and diluted.
Gotcha.
So,
See, you guys got to understand that we all know a lot at Heritage. We all do. We all fit in very intricately, like a jigsaw puzzle. You know, Jerry Stephan knows
everything
DC, and then I say, when we say everything, I mean, if anybody in our department needs to know anything about DC, we actually walk up to Jerry because he does know it,
and especially Batman.
Oh my God, it's ridiculous the fount of knowledge he has, you know, and I know Silver Age and Golden Age pretty well, but I don't know artwork very well. You know, Xavier knows artwork and toys, and we all fit in, but we all don't know everything.
Yeah,
you know, it's very difficult.
It's very impossible to know everything. Even as much as I know about artists and certain artists, I don't know all the artists.
Right.
And it's just like that's where other people like Todd comes in and Ed that know older artists. Joe Manarino is a wealth of knowledge because he knows so many artists, particularly with their estates, and has been dealing in it with it so long.
So and so we don't want you to think that we know everything, but we definitely can give you the answers because we will find the answers.
The team knows everything.
Right.
So, again, it's just like I got into comics at the age of 8. I collected comics for a long time, and at the age of 17, I found my first piece of art, and I was basically blown away, saying, why collect a comic if I can have this that's the only one?
Right. And I was never introduced to that, or at least I was in such a small fashion that I didn't understand it and never got towards that. Now that I understand it, you know, logically in my brain, it kind of goes with what Xavier says. Why would I own a comic book which has various, you know, multiple copies when I can own a piece of it that is one of a kind? However, there are things that I will still get.
But the art is very tied into the comic and the nostalgia.
For sure,
it's like if I hadn't seen and read all these comics or seen a particular page, especially with newer art, I wouldn't be like, oh, I kind of want that. Or, oh, I'm going to go after this particular page or cover or whatever.
Remember, collect what you love, guys. Yeah. That's kind of what we're boiling this down to. Is collect what you love.
You're never going to feel like it sucks. If it loses money or whatever, at least you love it and it's still on your wall and you're enjoying it until the day you die.
Right. So. By the way, he looks mad.
Well, I actually brought this because it's Fat Thor.
Oh, I guess it is, isn't it?
So this is a Guardians of the Galaxy splash page, again, under $500. And it again, he's a little pudgy on the.
And well, and they, you know,
And
you
and
can't probably see it, but they did do a paste up on his
they
face.
did a paste up right on his face to put some more rolls in under the neck, so double chinning
I
there.
didn't even know that was a thing, to be honest. I thought only the MCU did that.
Well,
Don't-
to be honest, this is the first time I see Fat Thor drawn. That's why I actually brought this splash. And like I said, it's very cheap. It's a Guardians of the Galaxy published page, and again, it's it'll match any fan's wall, especially if they're a big Thor fan,
Right.
and especially that particular movie. So, going to another splash. I've been going from older art to newer art, and then we'll go back to some older art again. But again, that's newer splash, 90s. This is a more modern splash by an older artist, Howard Chaykin. And you can also see Howard Chaykin uses a lot of different mediums to do his artwork. This particularly has an overlay that has the gun, which he actually used whites to um, basically make it pop more off this overlay. And you have his artwork. Again, he Howard Chaykin is one of these that uses markers a lot, and you can see the differences with the different markers. This browning is kind of what happens to marker when
It
fades.
starts fading out a
It
little
starts
bit.
fading.
Right.
I don't think this is the particular situation with this piece. I think he did it on purpose. But again, this is just a great splash by an amazing artist. Again, Howard Chaykin, American Flag, several other stuff that he's done over the years since pretty much the 70s. And this is again the Punisher. Everybody loves the Punisher, and a great just display piece up on your wall.
And you can tell Chaykin a lot
Yes.
by the face, square.
Well,
He's very square in the jaw.
and his line work, he's very
Right.
distinct. It's just
Right.
like that's one of the things that I also like. I like to collect a lot of artists that are very distinct, and
Mhm.
sometimes it goes again. A lot of people like to collect the different things, but sometimes I'll go after the pieces or pages that is one artist. His whole idea, the pencils and inks are by that artist, and um, in modern art, it's a little bit more common. When you go into older art, it's very uncommon. So,
Right.
but there are pieces like David Mazzucchelli during his Daredevil run did a lot, about 12 issues where he penciled and inked it. Again, there's other artists that will do that, and Howard Chaykin is one of those that he pretty much does the whole process from beginning to end.
It's funny, we had a Steve Ditko page, the Spider-Man page in the signature sale, and I was on the phone with a client, and he goes, "This says it's penciled and inked by Ditko," and he goes, "That's not possible." He goes, I know that's not possible. Looks it up. That's exactly what it was. And he was so shocked. It made him happy because it was something unique. It was done by him.
Well,
both, you know,
there's a lot of so there with Ditko collectors. That's a big deal.
That's a big deal. Yeah.
So there's a lot of Ditko collectors that will only buy pure Ditko pencils and inks. Where again, there's Ditko did have inkers in certain things, and if you look at the prices overall, it does have an effect on
it
value.
Does, yes.
So, that is a big deal, and collectors have those certain like little subgenres or their likes, and there's reasons to that. Sometimes, for example, Kirby. A lot of people don't like Vince Colletta inking on Kirby because they say that he ruined Kirby's pencils. But if you look at the Thors, I think that he did a very good job, particularly with
Thor.
Thor.
It's really funny you say that because I hear that a lot, and I didn't. When I look at Thor, I don't think it's that bad.
Well, with Thor, it's not, but it's just like there's another argument that Mike Royer is one of his better inkers, especially with the Commandy stuff and the later DC stuff. So, again, it's all preferences. It's all the way that you see the art. You saw how the pencils were sometimes and stuff like that, and you see who's doing the better job of the art. The primary artist's interpretation of what they wanted to see. So. Again, another modern piece here, and it's number 1 page. This is Roger Cruz from X-Men First Class, and I particularly brought this one because it's a great. It's paneled, but it's has very half splashy feel to it, and you have the whole team of the Fantastic Four here beating up the villains and capturing them with a Shield team helping them out, and you have the whole X-Men team on the bottom panel. And them talking in front of a TV, seeing what's going on the page. Again, just modern art, great page.
Very detailed.
Very detailed, clean line work. and very reasonable at this point. Again, I think it's under $200 or $300.
Who's the artist?
It's Roger Cruz. So
I got to meet. I may have mentioned this last time, but I was in Seattle for the comic show, and I get to meet Terry Dodson. And, and Terry Dodson was really fun. He was fun to talk to. We were there together, and you had mentioned he had some artwork.
Yeah.
So I go running up on the last day. I'm like, I gotta see. I know Terry Dodson. I've known his artwork for a little bit, and so then all of a sudden I'm looking at covers and I'm looking at pages, and I'm like, okay, I have to have this one page. Like, I actually bought a page. It's the first page I've ever bought at a convention outside of, either Heritage or something.
And that's always fun too.
And it really was having a conversation.
Yeah.
And it's I think it's Fantastic Four and X-Men. And it's got Susan Storm taking Magneto and picking him up and hit one of her invisible balls and throwing him through this bus. And I was looking at this page going, I am blown away by this. I'm blown away. And then Xavier goes, oh, by the way, there's a fully extended Wolverine claws in the lower left corner. And I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, darn it, there's a Wolverine. Like, who would have thought Wolverine's in this too? But I fell in love with it, had to buy it.
Again, that's a fun experience also, meeting the artist, going to the convention, talking to them about the page, seeing their whole artistic process too.
Right.
And again, you talked to Terry, I talked to Jim Mafood for a while, and it was a great experience. Again, Jim Mafood is one of those artists that pencil and inks all by him, has a very distinct style, very graffiti-like that I particularly like. I like graffiti art as well, and it was just a fun conversation, listening to him about the Tank Girl piece that I bought and his own self-published stuff and his pop-up book that was there that was very cool, and then that was the other impressive thing, seeing other artists come to his table and talk to him and saying how much they respect his art,
right?
Because he's a person in the industry that has been doing it for so long,
right?
And also seeing aspiring artists going to him and asking them for opinions and stuff like that, because that's another thing. Comic book artists, especially if you're an aspiring comic book artist, you can take a portfolio to them and they'll critique it. And as long as you have the mindset where it's just like, okay, this person's there to teach me something that I might not know, and you absorb that, you become a better artist.
Right.
So.
And we had that conversation in Seattle, about artists doing stuff digitally. And we were talking about how much money we believe. Now, this is kind of a personal belief. Remember that when we say this, I'm not making a stance for Heritage at this point, and I don't think you are either.
No.
But we believe personally, because we like to collect these things.
Yeah.
And listen, people like to collect things. It is very hard to collect a piece of computer screen. It's impossible, as a matter of fact. So all these artists now, while it's faster and while it's probably more convenient for the publishing companies, you are leaving a lot of money on the table, in my opinion.
Well, that's the opinion.
I want to own these pieces, and down the line, you can't sell it.
And there's a big thing about having the published piece, because that's another distinguishing difference with collectors. There's collectors, and the bigger collector group is they go after published pieces.
Right.
There's unpublished pieces, there's sketches, there's illustrations and stuff like that. But the main value, and especially with the newer artists that are just doing this stuff digitally, I think that they're losing out. They're losing out on a secondary source of income, collectible income, something that they can also hold on to as a retirement process or anything like that. Some artists now have started to do digital printouts of one-of-ones. We'll see how that takes into the future.
NFTs, we don't know. We don't know if NFTs are around to stay or not.
Yeah.
But boy, if
if I was an artist today, I would definitely. Again, I understand deadlines and I understand having to work fast, and maybe you don't do it all the time. But if you're working on a very special book, or you're working on your own imprint, or you're working on a #1, or you're working on a first appearance of a character or something like that, if I was you guys, I'd be drawing those out and not doing them digitally.
Yeah, look at Bernie Wrightson and his Frankenstein plates. Bernie Wrightson took 12 years, something like that, to do his Frankenstein story.
The story.
And all those plates, and he was meticulous about them, and those now go for
a ridiculous amount of money.
And
he kept them. That was the other thing.
Right. And so and then when Murphy Anderson, Murphy Anderson estate, he kept all his artwork. And so
Again,
there is some sort, if you become popular, you
well,
become loved in the community, you have money.
well, and
You're,
there's
you're
certain,
printing money.
well, you can also print out money just by doing sketches or signing.
Right.
But there's a lot of artists, contrary to popular belief, that did think ahead and they kept their art. Again,
Right.
Stan Sakai, the Superman guy that we've been selling off his collection,
What's his name?
John, but I murdered his
it's a
murdered his last name.
Bogdanove.
Yes.
Is that it? Bogdanove. It's close
again.
to that.
I don't know how to pronounce it, so I'm not going to try. Another person, Sergio Aragones, kept all his Gru stuff. So
Yeah.
It's interesting how these people thought ahead and believed in their own art.
That's what it is. They believed in their own art.
One of the big things is Walt Simonson. Walt Simonson has these stories where he would sell his art at conventions, and he would have this interaction with the collector, and it'd be a great interaction or whatever. And he sold his piece, and he sees the collector walk away, and he already started missing it. So it was easy for him to realize that he just didn't want to sell his art, and he would do commissions, he would do sketches, but he kept a lot of his stuff. Sterenko, another genius in my opinion, that at the time he rewrote his contract. He literally took the agreement where it says we're going to keep your art, and he scratched that out, and he told Stan that I'm keeping my art. And when he left Marvel, he went and picked up all his art from the vault, or at least what was left there. So again,
right. We've kind of gotten off track. I'm sorry we got off track. That is my fault. However, we're trying to make a point here that our business is not infinite, and we can only sell things based on what we find, what collectors bring to us, what consigners bring to us, and what artists bring to us. And we always want you to be successful, and because the only way we make money is for you to make money, and so it's almost a partnership in some fashion, and so we're letting you know flat out, telling you, if you don't have any pieces to sell, how do we help you? We want you to be successful.
It's like the discussion of comics going digitally. Like for years they want to do it digitally, or we want to print graphic novels only and forget about the issues. And it's just like, well, if you go that route, there'll be graphic novels, but there won't be any hard source material.
You will lose your audience. I guarantee it at some point down the line.
Or not necessarily lose the audience, but a collector will always be a collector. It's almost like
I have to have it in my hand.
It's almost like a disease. So a collector is going to find some way of collecting it somehow. And DC has done a good job of their NFT platform with trying to do something digitally there as well, with the Batman cowls and stuff like that recently. So they're trying, but I think that the physical item like a comic and like the piece of art, I think there's nothing. I think it's irreplaceable. I think there's nothing like it. So
I agree. Okay, sorry, bad tangent, but
no,
we had to get on a soapbox here for a little bit because we do care about you guys. We do care about the community. We do care about collecting. We're part of that. We collect. We're not sitting here as people who are just talking and don't collect. A lot of people at Heritage do collect. That's why we're here.
And that's why we understand the market so much.
Right.
And that's why we get frustrated sometimes when stuff goes crazy, because
we're
not going to be able to buy it. So
yeah. If you think I could afford a page of Secret Wars now.
So again, Bronze Age page, we're going to older art again. Great action. Like I said, there's a lot of Bronze Age pages in today's weekly, and many of them have action. This is a Claw the Unconquered #1 page. Again, it might be a Claw, but it's very Conan Cole-esque. Conan
and Ernie
page.
Chan.
Yeah, and it's Ernie Chan piece. And Ernie Chan was a very big Conan artist and stuff like that, and he also did some Hulk stuff. So very prolific inker in his time, and just again, a great piece, great paneling. That's another thing that I always sometimes look at when I'm looking at a page: 2 squares, and then 3 squares evenly paneled. Just a great display page, and just a great piece from a #1 issue to have. Relatively also affordable. So
I like that page, actually. I'm not a big Conan fan. I'm definitely not a Claw the Unconquered fan, but
Yeah.
I'm an Ernie Chan fan. I
Yeah.
love his artwork.
So,
So if you were going to put this on the wall, get it. You know what I mean?
well, and then there's a lot of stuff like everybody always goes for Conan, but there's
So of course they
Cole,
do, right?
there's Claw, there's again
There's a lot of substitutes to a degree
there-
that are still have great artwork.
to a certain extent. Tarzan is also the same
Right.
kind of.
You may
he's a
not
savage,
collect the
so-
books, but you can definitely collect the artwork
And
and
you-
love it and
and-
put it on your wall and
and the,
display it well.
yeah, and the flow of the
Right.
art, and again the action. It's just it's something that again, if you can't have the Fantastic Four beating up the Mole Man, you can have Ernie Claw beating up some barbarians. So
Mhm.
another great piece from a European artist, Giorgio Camolo. He
like
does a lot
this.
of commission work. A lot of his stuff is painted, but the process of his final paintings is very interesting. He'll go through a pencil preliminary. He'll then go through a pencil and ink piece such as this. Sometimes it's larger, sometimes it's smaller. And then he finally finishes it with a full painting. And this particular piece, again, I've always liked this cover. It's a Sterenko takeoff. It's very the persistence of time, Dali's clocks melting, and it's just a very this cover pretty much was the height of pop in comics.
So this is a
movement.
published cover.
It's the Sterenko Nick Fury Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. cover
Is obviously, but this is not. This is more of a reinterpretation.
This
then?
is yes, this is
Gotcha.
a reinterpretation of that cover with Batman and saying like Bruce Wayne, agent of
Right.
Gotham City Police Department.
Okay.
So again, very true to the piece. All these clocks. You have the Joker and the Penguin in the background. You have the question marks from the Riddler melting through. You have Two-Face actually melting. Just a great piece. And from a great artist, Giorgio Camolo.
What's really amazing about this is the medium. Like look at it's on paper.
So he does his preliminaries on paper, and then the final paint is on heavier stock. So again, just a great piece.
That is a pretty cool piece.
And large art.
Yeah, this twice up. It's as close to twice up as you're going to get nowadays. You never see that.
And this final piece is a page from Rangers Fiction House Comics, and we have actually I brought this along because we have several Golden Age pages in our weekly this time.
I'm the one who brought that in. Is that out of the portfolio? I'm pretty sure
again, there's some pages, and I particularly brought this one because in this week's auction, there's a lot of pages that have good action.
Yeah. From
the hero fighting the villain, and this was one of them, and it's a Golden Age page. I think this is under $100, so it's insane. And there are several Golden Age pages in this.
Twice up, by the way.
Twice up. Golden Age from Rangers and other Fiction House publications.
And this is early Rangers. This is only number 38.
So,
listen, there are Golden Age, and there are Golden Age pages coming. I got a portfolio from a client that had 50 pages of Fiction House or around Fiction House type material that are going to be in the showcase auction, the Fiction House showcase auction, and then also the ones that were not Fiction House in the weekly sale. And let me tell you, when I got those pages, I was dumbfounded how beautiful they were. They were gorgeous. They're twice up. You had 50 twice up pages at the same time that weren't Silver Age, and
it's not
normal,
superhero,
right? It's not superhero, and but they were amazing pages,
and they're by some of the greatest artists of their time,
right?
So,
and just how could you not want these on your wall? They're gorgeous.
Again, a great like this one, great hero fighting villain, whatever it is. Again, it's like not superheroes, but this panel very evil. Imaging and stuff like that. Like again, there's a lot of pages like this, and sometimes what's interesting about these Golden Age pages that they have a lot, Planet Comics and all this, they have all these blue line notes and stuff like that they later on they would do maybe in pencils, and they would get erased, and sometimes not do at all. They would only do them later after they Xerox them onto the photo copy or the color guide. So
right. Absolutely awesome. I love these pages. I can't wait to see how that collection does.
Like I said, several of them this week's auction. So good luck, everybody.
Yeah. Now that we told everybody, that's and we've noticed a little bit. Hey, if you pull it up, then prices kind of seem to
Jump
nudge a
bit,
little
yeah.
bit because we're singling it out.
We're bringing attention, and again, and bringing attention to the whole auction. Like I said, this is just one of the particular pages that is there. You might not like this page. You might like one of the other pages.
Right.
That's what
Exactly.
art is very subjective. So
Right. Was that your last page?
yeah, it is the last
Oh,
page.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, this is my teachable moment. I'm gonna show a teachable moment here, and I'm pulling it out. So we have a lot of people that, and I'm gonna bring this. I'm gonna actually put this side by side if I can.
Here, I'll hold the
That'd be great.
golden.
So we have a lot of people that ask us, I want to display my comics on the wall. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And what do you say? Don't. I have a local comic shop owner that says, do not under any circumstances do that. Here's the reason why. Okay. This is a Fantastic Four #4. Very, very valuable book. Next to it is a Fantastic Four #2. And only a 3.0, no less. But look at the colors on that versus what the FF4 is. The #4 is supposed to be yellow like that. And yellows bleed in the sun, yellows bleed in the light, especially reds. Any kind of reds too, especially any kind of ultraviolet light will actually suck the color right out of it, and then you're left with this gray wash of a book.
And blues for some reason.
Yeah, blues stick around. And so what you should not do is display your books in light. Any kind of light. We don't even care if they're digital. What my local comic shop says is nowadays with photocopying being so good and being picture quality, you can actually get a high res image of the front cover and display it that way and be happy. But don't display your books in light. Your comics themselves, and why we were kind of talking about you're able to display art versus comics is the colors will bleed on your comics. They will bleed in a way you do not want them to, and you will never see it happening because it happens over time. And over time, you won't notice that. Yeah. Okay. 10 years down the road, you're going to be like, oh, my book looks good. And then all of a sudden you hold it up to another one and go, oh my God, my book is gone. Okay. So I'm urging you out there, the comic community, stop displaying your books. No matter how much you want to do it, stop displaying them in the open. This will happen. It will. And there's nothing you can, there's nothing you can do about it. We don't want that. You know, I don't like telling people your book is not worth anything. I don't like telling your people that, hey, look, your book is worth $100 when it could have been worth $3,000.
It's worth much less because there's always the thing.
I mean, an FF4 will always, that's still going to hold a couple $100.
Well, because at least I receive phone calls when unfortunately we have to reject a collection sometimes. Right. It's just like, oh, so my books aren't worth anything. I should just toss them.
No, please don't do that either.
And it's just like, okay, that you don't, they're worth something. They're just not worth enough for us to take in on consignment because of our requirements and our minimums.
We can't take everything.
But again, a comic book is worth something. It's one of the only things that you can buy for X amount of money, and you can get a fraction of that at least back, whether it be 10 cents or 5 cents. Again, it does have some kind of value. Right. And then just because we didn't go through the whole list, you might have something, especially if it's modern, that is valuable, that just again is buried in the collection of maybe 5 or 10 long boxes, and you didn't particularly put that one on the list. So,
but the point to this is that book could have been worth $1,000, $2,000, $3,000 had it not been ink faded, even in the grade it's in. If the grade it's in is that low, but it had all its colors, it's going to be worth double than what it is right now.
It's going to be more presentable, as a display piece, because that's another thing you can actually do. Like again, this #2 is in a 3, but it presents incredibly well.
Yeah, so absolutely,
you can get a high grade. Like if you're a collector, I get a Fantastic Four #2 in a 9, and that one you put away. And if you can afford to get a duplicate as a 3 and not care that one gets a little bit sun faded.
Yeah, don't sun fade any of your books, please. It drives me insane. I'm a fan of keeping. We're here to preserve comics.
Well, that's our job as a collector. That's the job. Is it's like we're not an owner of these things. We're We're a
Let's
curator.
close this up a little bit.
We're a curator of the pieces, and
Right.
we're only taking care of it
Close it.
for the next generation.
There we
So
this I brought along to start an argument. So Xavier likes books. You tell him.
so again, going
Themes.
into theme collecting and stuff like that, one of my favorite themes to at least collect comics is treasure covers. I particularly like when a cover has a treasure chest or a satchel of gold.
But
and
he has
gems.
rules, boys and girls. He has crazy rules.
You have to have rules.
There are crazy rules, though.
so-
does this apply? Does this count?
That does not apply.
See, that's what I'm saying. He said treasure chest. He said
Again,
he
so-
said
so there-
jewels.
So there's a treasure chest, but the chest is not open where
What's
you
in
can
the box?
you can see the treasure. So you
But
have to
also, if they were not stealing it, right? Or if they were which one is it? 'Cause
again,
you would
as
come
long
up
as
with these weird
as
rules.
long as the treasure is there and you comes out as a zombie trying to get them.
Yeah.
So
that was a great one.
That is a
that
good
one I
song.
knew you would like, but I knew this one would get me into an argument because
So-
he wouldn't like it because Pandora's box is there.
So again, it's just like there's and that's where you have to make, at least I have to make these rules because it just get out of hand if I just started buying
Anything with a box.
anything with a treasure looking box. So.
It's funny because I know what he's saying because I like reflection covers. Now I'm not actively buying reflection covers, but if it has reflection in it, I think that counts. Speaking of which, I guess I should go into that. I never really thought I would. I had a segue. Where is it? There we go. Can you grab that?
Yeah.
So I wasn't planning on going into this at this point, but I may as well because we're talking about reflection covers. And that's kind of one of mine. I like reflection covers. I also like jet black covers because finding black covers are hard to get in nice grade. But this Crime Suspense Story 17 is a reflection cover. Prior to me working here, I didn't know it was a suicide cover. They kept saying it was a suicide cover, and it drives me insane. I'm like, it's not a suicide cover. And listen, CGC is not infallible. I've seen them say it was an electrocution cover when it was actually a lie detector cover, that sort of thing. So I know they're not infallible. I do know they make mistakes, just like we all do. So I never knew this was a suicide cover because if you look at the angle of the arm, it's weird. It doesn't, like it's being held.
So that's one of the things that when I saw this cover as well with you, it's just like you never noticed it until you see the reflection.
You see the small reflection.
The
in the
reflection
back.
where he is shooting himself. But
the angle is weird because you're like
the arm, it's
like
almost
this.
like
it's
the arm has to be sitting flat with the rest of the body.
It's like a Lee Harvey Oswald.
Kind
Did he shoot JFK question? I mean,
or George Reeves, the Superman.
Yeah. So, it's one of those. It's just one of those weird angled. They fit it in there because they needed to be able to get all the image in, but it's also a reflection cover, and that actually shows you the suicide. Whereas prior to that, I mean, for 20 years prior to that, not hey, I just found, 20 years, I thought, no way this is a suicide because I never noticed a little reflection in the back. And there are a lot of books that I do that with. I just kind of gloss over this small little detail. Mass Comics is one of them. And we had this comment. Mass Comics, this most famous L.B. Cole cover that I have loved my whole life.
You never noticed
the fairies. Never noticed. They're like fairies on the cover. I'm like, what fairies on the cover? I just thought it was this normal weird coloring around the side of the mask. And then they were talking about, fairies in open flame. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And then my eyes saw that. And it's kind of like the switch of, is this a bunny rabbit or an old lady or something like that? My eyes really did not see that stuff very easily. So I find it that one specifically, I just didn't see the reflection.
Well,
It's
again,
kinda crazy.
and it's also coming from, I had seen it from years ago. It's the angle of that arm,
That angle of the arm drives
and
me
it's
insane.
and now that I look at it a little bit more, it's almost they might have been trying to draw it as realistic as possible because it almost looks like he's falling back
Right,
with a
right,
with a
and could
gunshot.
be. And, I'm not.
So
I'm certainly not arguing at the artist. I'm not saying anything. It's
no,
just
again,
something my
because
brain can't rationalize.
it's just
The
a
angle of the arm is
it's
too weird for me.
it again, it's that image.
Right.
So
Maybe it's the shadowing too, because the shadowing is darker
and it
up
yeah.
front than in back, and so maybe that's why I always
Well,
thought. I don't know, whatever the reason
again,
is.
it always looked to me like somebody was shooting.
That's what I thought until I saw the reflection, and then it kept saying suicide, and I kept
Yeah.
saying, "No, it's not." But yes, it is.
Yeah.
So my bad. Sorry, CGC, for arguing that one for the longest time in my head. It really. So what I was going to start with, and that's kind of why I said it was a good segue into the crime suspense stories. I wasn't planning on showing that right away. What I really wanted to show was, and segue into, was the foreign auction, the international showcase auction we were going to have. Now, don't confuse this with our international auction.
Correct.
We do have an international auction. It's our European auction.
That's based out of our European houses.
That Olivier does. He does very well.
Yes.
It's a great auction. But we're doing something different. We're actually doing an international comic book auction, which has American versions of comic books in foreign countries.
So they have. So what happened was that the American publishing companies like DC and Timely started out licensing the comic books out very early on. Particularly, one of the earliest ones is a Paquito, which is a comic or a magazine type of comic from Mexico that reprinted one page of Action Comics on the back cover throughout a series of about, I think, 10 or 12 of them, or 12 pages. Yeah.
Right.
And those were printed 3 months after. The first one was printed 3 months after Action Comics came out, which is very impressive because prior to going into all this and the knowledge that we're giving all our collectors is we, as comic experts and collectors, we didn't know that the licensings were given or sold that early on.
Right, that fast, because we're
months.
used to seeing the UK versions, which are a month or 2 months behind.
And then other versions from other countries that are a year or several years behind.
Right.
So, but there are publishing companies like La Prensa in Mexico and Ibal in Brazil that had very, very early licensings to Timely's.
And
DCs.
we've had to do some incredible amount of research. And I mean we, meaning him and our buddy Rick Akers. They have done an incredible amount of research with this.
And there's a crazy, also unique items, such as there is an Ibal comic from Brazil that has Superman and the Human Torch on the cover. And it was a crossover Timely and DC, which you didn't really see that
you didn't see it at all. It didn't exist. It didn't exist. And the crossover didn't exist until the 70s.
Until the 70s. So, and then in Brazil was doing the crossovers already in the 40s. And it's, again, because the publication themselves would put certain stories from again, a Golden Age Comics has several stories in it. So the foreign imprints would take, let's say, 6 or 7 issues of different comics from DC or a national periodical, and basically Frankenstein them into their own comic, which, again, Captain Marvel was more popular, so let's put a Captain Marvel in there. The Phantom was more popular, so let's put a Phantom in there. And instead of having all these random stories that a detective has, they were putting the more popular stories of all the different comics into their one imprint. So that's why the label is very important. That's another thing that we've been going back with CGC on, is what comics are actually in there, and the years of print, the year of manufacturing and stuff like that.
And we're going to talk about rarity here. So
yes.
let me explain something when we say rarity of these books. When I say rare, I mean the word rare looks common. Okay, so if I were to say rare for a comic book. Let's say an Action
Well,
Comics
Action
1.
40.
These
40
make
something.
an Action comic look like I just picked one off the street yesterday at a garage sale. That's how rare these books are. These are non-existent. There's only a few collectors who have a bunch of these,
Yes.
right? And so we're seeing some of them. Now we're seeing some this week. So this is one of the first weeks that some of them are coming up in mass.
Yes.
Then we have a huge amount in that showcase auction. I've actually been contacted outside of you and Rick,
Yes.
on my own through Instagram, based on this. And so now I'm getting into it because of the rarity of these books. They are crazy rare.
And not only is there superhero, there's also pre-code horror, which is we're getting a collection of hopefully of pre-code horror, and that's going to be an even bigger thing. But going to Rarity, again, for example, Action 1 US version, overall graded copies, I think there's
36. So
40,
there are 36
40
blue labels
and
or
40
something like that.
something overall graded.
Right.
Because that's
Close
another
to
thing
that.
with a lot of these foreign comics. At the time, they were restored and stuff like that. So a lot of these have restoration, or a lot of these are low grade because of the conditions of that country, the humidity.
Yeah,
the
imagine
paper drives,
Brazil, the humidity,
and
the
dry,
paper drives,
again,
the
paper
rusting
drives,
staples,
all that stuff.
Holy
So
moly.
a lot of these comics, the collectors initially, so they wouldn't deteriorate more further, they removed the staples. So some of these comics don't have staples at all because they were rusting out, and
Right.
they were smart to conserve it that way. But again, Action Comics, 40 something overall graded on the census. That Paquito, which has page 3 of the reprint 3 months after, there's only three known copies to exist.
Oh, yeah.
3 known in any kind of grade, in any shape, restored or non-restored.
That is incredible.
So
3 copies. Good luck finding one. So what I wanted to show you, this is kind of cool. So I'm going to show you a bunch of these, and we're going to bring them up on the screen too. So, this is from Sweden. My parents went to Sweden when I was a kid, and I think I have an Amazing Spider-Man. I think it's 180. I can never remember the number, but it's the one where Spider-Man's shooting his web at Mysterio, and Mysterio's picking up his head, and it's going through. And that's one I've always remembered. I still own that book. I still have that in my own personal collection of books. I'll never get rid of because it's not worth anything. First of all, but secondly, it's because it was from when I was 10. Or something like that. And it was such a memory to me that my parents got me a book. I can't read, but it's so cool to see Spider-Man in a foreign language.
Yeah.
Superman is like this. This is a Stallmannen is how you say something like that. But that's Action Comics, and this is kind of what I was arguing today.
So
which one is it?
So that's the thing. Stallman
should be Superman.
No,
right?
Well, Stallman actually under the CGC labels, we have to look on the inside of these comics, because what they will do is Stallman was just the imprint. But they'll reprint. They'll reprint Supermans. They'll reprint Actions.
Why is this one Stallman 35 and that one's not Stallman 125?
So if you look at under the Action, it says Stallman 11. So
again,
CGC has been going through this where they've been adding more and more information.
Gotcha.
And when the information is given there, because that's another thing that we're having a lot of difficulty, and CGC is under the rules that if they can't find the information, like, for example, the publication date, they will not put it there because they will not put something that they're not confident about.
Which is good. That's exactly what we want. But these are the things, and they're learning this as much as we are because we're giving them a lot of stuff.
So again, Stallman, for example, had Superman, Action, Jimmy Olsen, and Lois Lane reprints.
Reprints, they were printed for the first time there.
And they have comics where they were original stories to the country. Like Spider-Man is very famous to having non-canon stories from Mexico and from Lebanon.
Okay.
But most of the comics that we see and most of the comics from the other imprints were just comics that were translated over and then printed through them. Some of these will have, like you see, this Wiedman has actually original art that wasn't U.S. art. But like this Stallman is obviously a U.S. cover.
Right. So. And so, you ask us what gets us excited, kind of things like this, because we have timelies. Like you said, a crossover of DC and Human Torch.
So,
those are so rare. We don't get to see things like that.
So some of the earliest stuff especially timelies that I've been able to find, is from Brazil. They're eballs, and they are Ghibli Mensal, and there's another M name that again, there's so much information coming in, but Ghibli Mensal is one of the bigger titles from Brazil that printed all that stuff, and you'll have the earliest timelies like Marvel Comics and Captain America and Submariner in the Ghibli Mensals.
That's great.
So
here's another set of two. Batman 189. This is the Danish edition, and then you have what is it? Jules Verne. I can't even say it. You say it.
Jules Verne's Vec Aventure, or as close as I could say that. So
that's a Swedish edition.
Yes, Vecken Aventure.
So you can see this. This is the first appearance of Scarecrow, first Silver Age Scarecrow. I'm not really sure about that one.
Again, this is Last Dynamite's Broxrens. Oh, they actually put it in Swedish. So
yeah, they do that a lot of times, which is why I didn't try and do that. By the way, I let X be the guinea pig on that.
Yeah, again, the other imprint from Brazil is Miram.
Okay, which means look, right?
Oh, again,
or that's Mira.
No, Mira in Spanish is look, but Brazil has a little bit.
They're Portuguese. They're Portuguese.
The language is a lot faster and easier.
What's really cool about this is the first appearance of Doctor Strange in, but this is Los Fantásticos, but also Strange Tales 110. This is the Mexican edition
from the Forbidden Collection.
So also a 4.5, really awesome. But this is something that's in our weekly sale this week, and really, I mean, who doesn't want the first appearance of Doctor Strange? But then finding it, a foreign edition of it is amazing.
And so that's the other thing. This is the Mexican imprint where it's
right.
And this is the La Prensa, which is one of the more famous ones, one of the original ones. And again, everything is just kind of translated. It's the same cover. And one of the funniest things that, again, Barry pointed out is Pete pega todo. So
Paste Pot Pete.
Paste Pot Pete is Pete glues everything.
Yes. So we, those books are in this weekly sale. Yeah. They will end on Sunday and Monday of this upcoming week. And so you have a chance, and that'll kind of be our first impression of how well that these go.
We had our first impression of how well they did. We had in the recent, I think it was Signature, we had a first appearance of Doom and Spider-Man #1.
Oh yeah? How'd those do? I didn't see.
If I'm not mistaken, one of them, don't remember which one. I'm guessing I'm thinking it's the Doom one, but it might be. I think it might be the Spider-Man. They went, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it was $13,000 or $15,000.
That's really good. And there used to be a big argument with the UK versions. The UK versions, because they printed a month, 2 months later, that they weren't worth as much. And we have actually seen those actually level up.
Yes.
Those are really close to almost equal with American versions now, and rightfully so, because those are harder to find
and rarer
than the American versions,
especially in high grade.
Try and find an AF-15 in the UK version in high grade.
The one that I'm particularly talking about that I think went for $15,000 was graded an 8.
Yeah,
and that's considered high grade,
super high grade. Yeah. So that's it for the foreigns. Now I'm going to get on to, of course, what I always like to show off. This is, what would Wiedman want? I've always said, everybody said, that I love Lee Elias. I've always liked Lee Elias. Everybody says that the Chamber Chills 19 cover is the best cover. This is actually one of my favorites. This is the number 21, but this is all the reporters are dead and the skeleton is actually typing the report. I don't know why I like it so much, but this to me is classic Lee Elias. It's just that it's the weird, that and the zombie kissing the girl.
You know what that is? It's the play on the deadline.
Oh, nice. I like that. I like that. But I really like this cover. I've always liked this cover. So, and this is a file copy. This one's a 6.5 file copy. It's going to be in our auction this week.
And that's what's
This
great.
is
6.5 for a file copy.
yeah.
So.
Well, some file copies got
Yeah.
damaged. It just is what it is.
But it looks beautiful again.
It's beautiful.
So.
I love it. The next thing. The next thing.
Oh, a little spot on the back, a little humidity spot. So.
This one is the first time I ever saw this. I was kind of floored because I
yeah.
thought it was a 1950 to 1955 book when it was getting really kind of racy as far as violence goes.
It is cartoony.
But this
looking.
isn't. This is 1944.
It is cartoony looking.
Cartoony. It's really awesome. This is a Fight Comics 31, and this one is incredibly infamous for the decapitation and the blood. It's not just that he was decapitated; it's all the blood that they're showing.
Well, it's the extreme violence.
It's the extreme. It's the extremity of the violence.
Yes.
And this is a 2.5, and this book normally is very, very high value, no matter the grade, because of the violence. One of the most sought after fight comics. One of the most sought after fiction house comics. And so personally, I'd be going after this book. In fact, I probably will. And this isn't a weekly, and it's a 2.5, and it's a nice 2.5. I'd take it as a 2.5. I wouldn't complain about it. But if you're looking to just try and get this book in your collection, this is probably the one you want, because good luck finding a 6.0 that you can get your hands on and can afford, unless you're way richer than me. These books really, really, really go at high values. Yeah. So finding a 2.5 that is presentable, I hate that word presentable, by the way. Finding a 2.5 that is worth getting your hands on is definitely one you should be going after. And then the last book I brought, we have every single G.I. Joe from last week to the next few weeks, 1 through, I think, 150 or 158, I think is what it goes to. Every single G.I. Joe, the Black Cat collection is part of that. He collected pre-code horror. He collected some of the best pre-code horror, but he also collected G.I. Joe and Star Wars. He liked both them. Every single one of them in 9/8 along the way, from front to end.
Did he have the CGC registry?
I don't know.
That would have been.
I don't know
That's
if the
interesting.
CGC registered that, but I mean,
since they were all 9/8.
It's a little more new. Well, he had some 9/9s last week. We sold 3 9/9s. He had 1/5 of all the 9/9s for G.I. Joe, which is a great comment. I remember me telling you there were only 15 9/9s in the whole run. So over 25,000 books have been submitted in the G.I. Joe run. Only 15 9/9s, and the Black Hat collection had 3 of them, which makes 20%.
That's crazy.
That's insane. And so those sold last week. But you can see that the run keeps going. Will be for the next few weeks. I think I either put 25 or 50 at a time. I don't remember. I think I put 25, which was each box.
Yeah, that makes sense. But again, I'm surprised that it's not like the CGC #1 registry set or something like that.
It's a little harder to get the #1 registry set from the 1980s because 9/8s are a little more prolific.
399.
I know. It could be. It could be close.
Yeah.
A little easier with Golden Age.
#2 registry.
It's amazing. So the Black Cat collection just continues to amaze me still, and I don't have much left, but it still blows my mind. And so very excited about it. I always have been, and I like talking to the client, and he's a big social media presence. And reach out and say hi to him. He's a really nice guy. He'll talk to you about comics, especially pre-code horror. He loves it.
Yeah.
Still to this day, he will talk about it. And that's great. But now I guess this is it. We're wrapping up. We're going to tell you.
Anybody?
Yeah, we listen, guys. When we wrap up a little bit, you need to be shooting in questions the whole time. We want to answer questions from you. If you're watching out there live, if you're not watching out there live, then you absolutely should post a question.
Yes.
We'll answer your questions. That is what we're here for.
Just like the postings of the winner. So they came in after the the podcast, and we're gonna announce. the
Yeah,
winner,
so we have a winner. So 2 weeks ago,
Yes.
the last episode, we had a contest. It was for the Marvel. Was it the Marvel Premiere?
It was a Red Sonja.
It was the Red Sonja,
So,
number one. Yeah, it was the
Red
Marvel
Sonja
feature. That's
yes.
what it is. Marvel feature number one in 9/6. We were giving this away, and you had to guess the closest guess to the Wolverine page, the
not like the
miniseries
Price
page.
is Right. Not like
Not like the Price is Right.
You
Wasn't
could
you could go over.
You could go over.
And our winner did go over, but boy, he barely went over.
He only, I think, only $2,000 or $3,000.
Yeah. So the winner was Mark Laughlin. And Mark Laughlin guessed 105,000. The item went for 102. 102 was 85 hammer, and then the BP caused it to be $102,000. And boy, my consignor was happy.
Oh my! And again, and a lot of Frank Miller collectors were very unhappy that they're never going to get a Frank Miller Wolverine page.
That was crazy.
Unless they already have them, then they're ecstatic. So because the next 2 pages after that page is, oh man, that one for 100. If this page went for 102, the next 2 pages.
I mean, you have to understand, first of all, how happy Miller people are if they've had stuff in their collection for a while.
For a long time.
But also,
the
Miller is commanding.
Collector like me,
you'll never get one.
Basically.
You may as well. Well, I mean, you might if you start selling kidneys and your liver and everything else you need to survive. Just put you on a machine and turn you into a cyborg, and maybe you'll win. But congratulations, Mark. We appreciate it, and we will, if we have your information in our the system, we will give you a contact and let you know you won. If you don't know already, you should, and then we will get your book to you. Okay.
All right.
So, and guys, stay tuned. That is not the only contest we will hold. We will hold more contests.
Ranging in different prices.
Yeah,
again.
we need to get permission to do these and give these away. So we can't do them every day. I wish we could. That would be great. But also questions. We are here for you. It's not very often you get to talk to the experts, and I use that term loosely with me. But if you want to know things, why do we do things the way we do? This is the best chance and the best venue that you get to ask, other than just shooting us an email.
Yep. So subscribe, shoot us an email, give us a call, leave a comment, and look forward to seeing you again next time.
Well, if there are no questions, we will see you in 2 weeks. And thank you very much for joining us. Once again, I am Brian Wiedman.
And I'm Xavier Chavez.
And we'll see you on the next episode of The Gavel Strikes.